Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at the readout for the thousandth time, her coffee growing cold as the implications crashed over her like a tidal wave. The quantum field equations dancing across her holographic display weren't just wrong according to established physics, they were impossibly right according to her experimental results. "Computer, run diagnostic protocol 77 alpha," she whispered, her voice barely audible in the sterile confines of the Europa Research Station's primary laboratory. "Diagnostic complete. All systems operating within normal parameters. No anomalies detected," the AI responded with mechanical precision. Elena's hands trembled as she reached for her personal communicator, then stopped. Who would believe her? The Galactic Council's Physics Consortium had spent 3 millennia establishing the fundamental constants that govern faster-than-light travel, energy manipulation, and the very fabric of space-time itself. Those constants weren't suggestions, they were immutable laws that had allowed the galaxy's 37 sapient species to build a civilization spanning for 100,000 star systems, and she had just proven them wrong. The experiment had been simple enough, a routine investigation into quantum field fluctuations near Europa's ice-water interface. Elena had been studying how the unique gravitational dynamics of the Jupiter system affected subatomic particle behavior, hoping to publish a modest paper that might secure her tenure at the University of New Geneva. Instead, she had stumbled upon something that defied explanation. Her modified quantum resonance chamber had produced energy readings that exceeded theoretical maximums by a factor of 12,000. The particles weren't just behaving unusually, they were violating conservation of energy, appearing to draw power from dimensions that mainstream physics insisted didn't exist. "Display theoretical framework Alpha 7, she commanded. The hologram shifted, showing her revolutionary equations alongside the established galactic standard physics model. The contrast was stark. Where the old model showed linear energy curves tapering to zero, her data revealed exponential growth patterns that seemed to feed on themselves, creating cascading reactions that should have been impossible. Elena's breakthrough centered on what she termed dimensional membrane resonance. By manipulating quantum fields at specific frequencies, she could create microtiers in space-time that access parallel dimensions, where physical constants operated differently. These tiers didn't just provide energy, they allowed for the fundamental rewriting of physics within localized fields. The applications were staggering. Faster-than-light travel without the massive energy requirements that limited current galactic civilization, energy generation that could power entire star systems, gravity manipulation that could terraform worlds in decades rather than centuries, material synthesis that could create elements that didn't exist in normal space-time. But Elena understood the deeper implications. For 3,000 years, the galaxy had been ruled by the hegemonian alliance of the first 5 species to achieve interstellar flight. They controlled access to the rare elements and energy sources required for advanced technology, keeping younger species like humanity in perpetual dependence. The hegemony's power stemmed from their monopoly on physics itself, their ancient knowledge of the fundamental forces. Elena's discovery would shatter that monopoly forever. She activated her private encryption protocols and began composing a message to Dr. Marcus Webb, her former mentor and now director of human colonial science. As she typed, Elena realized she was about to change not just physics, but the entire balance of galactic power. Humanity, barely the centuries into its space age and dismissed by most alien species as primitive upstarts, was about to become the most dangerous civilization in the galaxy. The message was simple. "Marcus, I need to see you immediately. Bring the Phoenix team. Everything we thought we knew about physics is wrong, and I can prove it." As she hit send, Elena wondered if she had just fired the first shot in a war that would reshape the galaxy. Dr. Marcus Webb materialized in Elena's laboratory 3 days later, his weathered face grim as he studied the quantum resonance chamber that had started it all. Behind him stood the Phoenix team, humanity's most brilliant scientific minds, hastily assembled from research stations across the solar system. "Show us," Marcus said without preamble. Elena activated the chamber, her fingers dancing across the control interface with practiced precision. The device hummed to life, its crystalline core beginning to glow with an otherworldly light. Energy readings spiked beyond conventional limits as dimensional tiers formed in the quantum substrate. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, humanity's leading theoretical physicist, stumbled backward as the impossible data flooded her neural implant. The energy cascade is feeding on itself. This violates every principle of thermodynamics we've established. It's not violating them, Eleanor replied, her voice steady despite the magnitude of her revelation. It's operating under different principles entirely. Watch, she manipulated the field harmonics, causing the tears to stabilize into permanent openings. Through these microscopic gateways, energy flowed from parallel dimensions where physical constants operated under entirely different rules. The chamber's power output climbed exponentially, reaching levels that could power a small city. Dr. Amara Okafor, the team's xenobiology specialist, ran her scanners over the dimensional interface. The quantum signatures are unlike anything in our databases. If these readings are accurate, you've accessed dimensions where matter and energy interact in ways that should be impossible. The implications for FTL travel alone, Dr. Rajesh Patel, their propulsion expert, trailed off as he processed the data. We could cross the galaxy in months instead of centuries. No more dependency on hegemony jump gates or their rationed fuel allocations. Marcus studied the readouts with the careful attention of a man who had spent decades navigating galactic politics. Elena, do you understand what you've done? This doesn't just change our understanding of physics, it makes you as a threat to every established power structure in the galaxy. I know, Eleanor replied. The hegemony has controlled galactic civilization for 3 millennia by controlling access to advanced physics. They've kept humanity and the other younger species dependent on their technology, their trade routes, their permissions. This changes everything. Dr. Kenji Nakamura, the materials engineer, was already running projections on his portable fabricator. The applications are limitless. We could synthesize materials with properties that don't exist in normal space-time. Imagine holes that become harder when struck, or weapons that phase through conventional shielding. We need to be careful, Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, their security specialist, interjected. If the hegemony discovers this before we're ready, they'll either steal it or destroy us to prevent anyone else from having it. Elena nodded grimly. I've been thinking about that. We need to accelerate our research and establish production capabilities before going public. Once we demonstrate the technology's potential, there's no going back. Marcus activated his secure communicator, connecting to the Human Colonial Council on Mars. Director Harrison, we need to speak. Priority Alpha 1, eyes only. The holographic image of Director Harrison materialized, her expression sharpening as she took in the assembled team. Marcus, your message was cryptic. What's the situation? We've made a discovery that changes everything. Dr. Vasquez has found a way to manipulate the fundamental constants of physics. This isn't just a scientific breakthrough. It's a potential game changer for humanity's position in the galaxy. Harrison leaned forward, her political instincts immediately grasping the implications. How quickly can you weaponize it? That's the wrong question, Elena interjected. This technology is too important to be limited to weapons. We're talking about revolutionizing energy production, transportation, manufacturing, every aspect of civilization. Dr. Vasquez is right. Marcus agreed. But we also need to prepare for the hegemony's response. They won't simply accept the end of their technological monopoly. We need to be ready for anything. Harrison's expression hardened. Then we move fast. I'm authorizing the establishment of a classified research facility in the asteroid belt. Complete secrecy, unlimited resources. How long do you need to develop practical applications? Elena exchanged glances with her colleagues. 6 months for basic applications. 2 years for full implementation across our colonial infrastructure. You have 4 months. Harrison replied. The hegemony's trade inspection fleet arrives in the outer system in 5. We need to be ready to demonstrate our independence by then, one way or another. As the connection ended, the weight of their situation settled over the team. They weren't just scientists anymore, they were revolutionaries, preparing to challenge the oldest and most powerful civilization in the galaxy. Elena looked at her quantum resonance chamber one final time before they began packing it for transport. Such a small device to change the fate of an entire species. The asteroid designated 2157 Theta had been unremarkable until the Phoenix team transformed it into humanity's most classified facility. Hidden within the irregular chunk of iron and nickel, the Prometheus laboratory hummed with activity as Earth's greatest minds worked to unlock the full potential of dimensional membrane resonance. Elena stood before a massive quantum field generator, its scale dwarfing her original prototype by orders of magnitude. The device could create stable dimensional tiers large enough to step through, opening gateways to realities where physics operated under fundamentally different rules. Calibration complete on Generator 7, Dr. Tanaka announced from her control station, we're maintaining stable access to Dimension Delta 4, where electromagnetic forces operate at triple standard intensity. Excellent. Route that to the materials fabrication bay, Eleanor replied, watching as streams of exotic matter flowed through the dimensional gateway. In Delta 4's reality, electrons exhibited properties that allowed for the creation of superconductors that remained stable at room temperature, a holy grail of materials science that the hegemony had never achieved. Dr. Patel's team had made even more remarkable progress with propulsion systems. By accessing dimensions where space-time exhibited different curvature properties, they had developed drives that could fold space without requiring the massive energy expenditures of traditional FTL systems. Test flights in the outer asteroid belt had demonstrated speeds that made hegemony vessels look like sailing ships. Compared to rocket-powered craft, the military applications are staggering. Dr. Rodriguez reported during their daily briefing, we can create armor that exists partially in parallel dimensions, making it effectively immune to conventional weapons. Our prototype shields don't just deflect energy, they redirect it to alternate realities, where it harmlessly dissipates. But it was Dr. Okafor's biological research that promised the most profound changes. By exposing organic compounds to the exotic physics of carefully selected dimensions, she had discovered ways to accelerate healing, enhance cognitive function, and even extend human lifespan. The implications went far beyond medicine. They suggested that humanity itself could be fundamentally enhanced. The cellular regeneration rates are unprecedented, she explained, displaying holographic models of enhanced tissue samples. We're looking at the potential to eliminate aging, cure genetic diseases, and enhance human physical and mental capabilities beyond current limits. Marcus monitored their progress from the facility's command center, maintaining constant communication with the Colonial Council while coordinating with dozens of other secret research sites throughout the solar system. Humanity was mobilizing its entire scientific establishment around Elena's discovery, racing against time to prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the hegemony. Status report from the Luna facility, he announced. They've successfully scaled up energy production. The prototype fusion reactors enhanced with dimensional field manipulation are producing power at rates that exceed our most optimistic projections. Elena nodded, but her attention was focused on a more subtle problem. We need to consider the ethical implications of what we're doing. This technology could transform humanity into something unrecognizable. Are we prepared for that responsibility? The alternative is continued subjugation, Dr. Nakamura pointed out. The hegemony has kept us as junior partners in galactic civilization for 2 centuries. They control our access to advanced worlds, limit our population growth, and treat us as barely evolved primitives. This is our chance to change that dynamic. But at what cost? Elena pressed. If we become something inhuman in the process of gaining our freedom, have we really won? The debate was interrupted by an urgent communication from Director Harrison. Her holographic image appeared in the command center, her expression grim. We have a problem. Long-range sensors have detected a hegemony investigation fleet changing course toward our solar system. They're not scheduled to arrive for another 3 months, but their acceleration patterns suggest they suspect something. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. How much time do we have? 6 weeks, maybe 7. They're being led by the Nexus of Truth, a Vorthic dreadnought equipped with the most advanced sensors in the hegemony fleet. If they conduct a thorough inspection of our facilities, they'll discover the dimensional research. Elena's mind raced through the possibilities. We need to accelerate our timeline. If we can demonstrate the technology's potential before they arrive, we might be able to negotiate from a position of strength, or we could trigger a war. Dr. Rodriguez warned, the hegemony has never hesitated to use force against species they consider threatening, that we make sure we're not an easy target. Marcus decided. Elena, can you have the defensive applications ready in 6 weeks? If we focus all our resources on military applications, yes, but it means abandoning most of the civilian research. Do it, Harrison commanded. Priority 1 is ensuring humanity's survival. We can explore the peaceful applications after we've secured our independence. As the team dispersed to implement the new timeline, Eleanor remained behind, staring at the dimensional generators that had changed everything. She had sought to expand human knowledge and instead had potentially triggered a galactic war. The irony wasn't lost on her in trying to free humanity from the hegemony's control. She might have doomed her species to a conflict they couldn't win through conventional means. But as she watched exotic matter flow through tears in reality itself, Eleanor realized that conventional warfare was no longer relevant. Humanity was about to introduce the galaxy to an entirely new form of conflict, one where the laws of physics themselves could be rewritten. The universe was about to become a much more dangerous place. The nexus of truth emerged from hyperspace. At the edge of the solar system like a metallic leviathan, its 5-kilometer length bristling with sensor arrays and weapon systems that had maintained hegemony dominance for millennia. Behind it followed a fleet of smaller vessels, representing all 5 founding species of the Galactic Alliance. Admiral HFY of the Vortex species stood on the Dreadnought's command bridge, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh lighting as he reviewed the sensor data that had brought them here ahead of schedule. The energy signatures detected by deep space monitoring stations defied explanation patterns that suggested impossible physics at work in humanity's home system. Commander Velter, report on the anomalous readings, HFY commanded, his translator rendering his clicks and hisses into standard galactic. The signatures originated from the asteroid belt region, Admiral. Our analysis suggests experimental work with quantum field manipulation, far beyond human technological capabilities. The energy patterns are unprecedented. HFY's compound, eyes focused on the tactical display showing Earth's defensive positions. Humanity's fleet consisted of barely 2 ships, primitive craft that would pose no threat to even a single hegemony destroyer. Yet the readings suggested they had somehow accessed technology that shouldn't exist. On the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Prometheus, Admiral Catherine Hayes watched the approaching fleet with a mixture of fear and determination. Around her, the ship's systems hummed with power drawn from dimensional generators that had been installed. Just weeks before, her vessel looked unchanged from the outside, but it now operated under laws of physics that the hegemony had never encountered. Signal from the hegemony fleet, her communications officer reported. They're demanding immediate surrender of all research materials and full cooperation with their investigation. Standard response, Hayes replied. We acknowledge their authority and request formal diplomatic proceedings. She activated her private channel to the Prometheus facility. Dr. Vasquez, we're out of time. Are the defensive systems ready? Eleanor's voice crackled through the secure connection. All systems are operational, Admiral. The dimensional field generators are maintaining stable barriers around our key facilities. If they attempt to use force, we can respond. Understood. Begin Phase 1. The space around the human fleet began to shimmer as dimensional fields activated. To outside observers, the ships appeared unchanged, but they now existed partially in parallel dimensions where different physical laws applied. Conventional weapons would pass through them harmlessly, while their own weapons could strike targets in normal spacetime. Admiral HFY noticed the energy readings immediately. Analysis of the human fleet's power signatures immediately, Admiral. The readings are impossible. They appear to be drawing energy from sources that don't exist in our dimensional framework. The power levels are climbing beyond our measurement capabilities. Deploy the investigation teams. I want to know how a primitive species has accessed technology that our greatest scientists consider theoretical impossibility. The first wave of hegemony shuttles launched toward the human fleet, their crews expecting routine compliance with superior technology. Instead, they encountered phenomena that challenged their understanding of reality itself. As the shuttles approached the Prometheus, their sensors began registering impossible readings. The human flagship appeared to exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Its whole phase is shifting between solid matter and something that their instruments couldn't classify. This is Hegemony Investigation Team Alpha, the lead shuttle's commander transmitted. We are experiencing sensor malfunctions approaching the human vessels. Request immediate technical support. HFY's tactical officer began running diagnostics on their own systems. Admiral, our sensors are functioning normally. The anomalous readings are originating from the human ships themselves. They've somehow altered their dimensional resonance patterns. The Admiral's exoskeleton clicked with agitation. In 3 millennia of galactic dominance, the hegemony had never encountered technology that operated outside their understanding of physics. The implications were staggering if humanity had discovered new applications of quantum mechanics. The technological balance that maintained galactic stability could be shattered overnight. Open a direct channel to the human commander, HFY ordered. Admiral Hayes' image appeared on the main viewer, her expression calm despite the overwhelming disparity in firepower surrounding her fleet. Admiral HFY, welcome to the Sol system. I trust your journey was comfortable. Admiral Hayes, you will immediately deactivate whatever experimental systems you have deployed and submit to investigation. The energy signatures we're detecting pose a potential threat to galactic stability. I'm afraid that's not possible, Admiral. The systems you're detecting are integral to our vessel's operations. However, I'm authorized to offer a full diplomatic briefing on our recent scientific advances. HFY's translator struggled with the undertones of confidence in the human's voice. By all conventional measures, humanity should be cowering before the assembled might of the hegemony fleet. Instead, their admiral was speaking as if negotiating from a position of strength. You have 10 minutes to comply with our demands, or we will take action to secure the anomalous technology by force. Admiral, Hayes replied, her voice carrying a note of genuine regret. I strongly advise against that course of action. Our defensive capabilities have advanced significantly since your last intelligence reports. As if to demonstrate her point, the space around the human fleet began to ripple with barely contained energy. Dimensional tiers opened and closed in controlled patterns, each one revealing glimpses of realities where the fundamental forces operated under different rules. For the first time in his long career, Admiral HFY felt something approaching uncertainty. The humans were displaying technology that shouldn't exist, backed by confidence that suggested they knew exactly what they were doing. The 10-minute deadline was about to expire, and the Admiral faced a choice that would determine the future of galactic civilization. He could retreat and report this development to the Hegemony Council, or he could test humanity's claims of advanced defensive capabilities. His duty to the Hegemony demanded he choose the latter. All ships, prepare for tactical engagement. Target the human flagship's power systems. Minimal force, we need those ships intact for analysis. As the Hegemony weapons powered up, Elena watched from the Prometheus facility with a mixture of anticipation and dread. Humanity was about to announce its arrival as a galactic power, but the cost might be measured in lives and the stability of civilizations. The battle for the future of physics was about to begin. The first salvo from the Hegemony fleet would have vaporized any conventional human vessel. Energy beams capable of melting asteroids and quantum torpedoes that could crack planetary surfaces converged on the Prometheus in a coordinated assault that had subjugated dozens of species over the millennia. Instead, the weapons passed through empty space as if the human flagship existed in a different reality entirely. Admiral HFY stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Report. Where are the impact signatures? Admiral, our weapons are registering successful target acquisition and fire control, but we're detecting no damage to the human vessel. Their dimensional resonance appears to be shifting our weapons into parallel space-time coordinates. The Prometheus rematerialized in normal space, its hull unmarked by the devastating barrage. Admiral Hayes opened communications with an expression of genuine regret. Admiral HFY, I warned you about our defensive capabilities. Our dimensional field generators create phase shift barriers that redirect incoming energy into alternate realities. Your weapons are striking our ships in dimensions where we don't exist. The implications hit the Hegemony commander like a physical blow. If humanity could selectively exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, conventional warfare became meaningless. Their entire military doctrine, refined over 3,000 years of galactic dominance, had become obsolete overnight. Impossible. HFY transmitted, no species has ever developed transdimensional military technology. Our physics models prove such applications are theoretically impossible. Your physics models are incomplete. Elena's voice cut into the transmission from the Prometheus facility. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Director of Dimensional Research. We've discovered that the quantum mechanical foundations your civilization has relied upon represent only a fraction of the possible interactions between matter and energy. Admiral HFY's exoskeleton plate shifted in agitation. You claim to have surpassed the combined scientific achievements of 5 advanced civilizations? We've built upon them, Elena replied diplomatically. Your species established the framework for understanding quantum mechanics, but you never explored the implications of dimensional membrane theory. We've simply taken the next logical step to demonstrate their point. The human fleet began displaying capabilities that defied every principle of established physics. Ships folded space around themselves, appearing to teleport across vast distances instantly. Energy weapons fired from the Prometheus punched through the hegemony fleet shields. As if they didn't exist, the beams somehow existing in dimensions where the defensive systems couldn't interact with them were taking damage. Commander Velter reported from the tactical station. The human weapons are bypassing our shields entirely. They're operating on frequencies that our defensive systems can't detect or deflect. But the human weapons weren't designed for destruction, they were delivering a message. Each shot precisely targeted non-critical systems, disabling sensors and communication rays without causing casualties. The demonstration was clear. Humanity could destroy the entire hegemony fleet if they chose to. But they were offering restraint instead. This is a diplomatic contact, not a battle. Admiral Hayes transmitted to the increasingly desperate hegemony forces. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. I suggest we move to formal negotiations. Admiral HFY found himself in an impossible position. His fleet was completely outmatched by technology that shouldn't exist. Deployed by a species his civilization had dismissed as primitive. Retreat would mean admitting the hegemony's military superiority was an illusion. Continued aggression would likely result in the complete destruction of his task force. Stand down all weapons, he ordered reluctantly. Open diplomatic channels with the human commander within hours. The most unprecedented diplomatic summit in galactic history convened aboard the neutral research station Kepler for 4-2b. Representatives from all 5 hegemony species faced Elena and her team in a chamber where the laws of physics themselves seemed unstable. Legate Tharman of the Crystalline Collective spoke first, her silicon-based form resonating with harmonic frequencies that conveyed deep concern. Dr. Vasquez, the technology you've demonstrated threatens the fundamental stability of galactic civilization. The hegemony has maintained peace for 3 millennia by ensuring no single species could dominate through technological supremacy, and yet, Elena replied, that stability was built on the hegemony's own technological supremacy. You've kept younger species in positions of dependency, limiting their access to advanced worlds and technologies. We're simply changing the terms of the relationship. High Scholar Cathara of the Ethereal Minds projected thoughts directly into the minds of the assembled delegates. The dimensional manipulation capabilities they've demonstrated could destabilize the quantum foundations of local spacetime. If misused, this technology could render entire star systems uninhabitable. Dr. Tanaka stepped forward, her presentation displaying the safety protocols they had developed. We're not reckless with this power. Our research has identified the parameters for safe dimensional manipulation. We can share these findings with all species to ensure responsible development. Share. Admiral HFY's translator rendered his incredulous clicks. You would distribute technology that could revolutionize galactic civilization, of course. Elena replied, knowledge belongs to all sapient beings. The hegemony's practice of hoarding advanced physics has held back the development of dozens of species. We propose a new paradigm based on open scientific collaboration. The assembled delegates exchanged glances that transcended species barriers. Humanity was offering to voluntarily surrender their technological advantage in exchange for a complete restructuring of galactic society. The proposal was either remarkably altruistic or incredibly naive. What assurance do we have that humanity won't use this technology to establish their own hegemony? Demanded war leader Krastock of the militaristic swarm. Marcus Webb activated a holographic display showing the defensive installations hidden throughout the solar system. We've already demonstrated that we could have destroyed Admiral HFY's fleet with minimal effort. Instead, we disabled their weapons and opened diplomatic channels. Our actions speak to our intentions. Elena stood and faced the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. The universe is vast beyond imagination, filled with mysteries we've barely begun to explore. Instead of competing for dominance over what we know, we propose cooperation to discover what we don't. Dimensional membrane theory is just the beginning. There are entire branches of physics waiting to be explored, and if we refuse your proposal, Legate Tharman inquired, then we'll continue our research independently. Elena replied, but the galaxy will be poorer for the lost opportunities. Imagine what we could accomplish if all our species worked together instead of maintaining artificial hierarchies. The negotiations continued for days, but the outcome was inevitable. Humanity had demonstrated capabilities that rendered traditional power structures obsolete. The choice was cooperation or irrelevance. As the accords were signed, Elena reflected on how far they had come from her small laboratory on Europa. One impossible discovery had rewritten the rules of galactic civilization, but more importantly, it had opened the door to possibilities that none of them could imagine. The galaxy was about to enter a new age, one where the only limits were the boundaries of imagination itself. 5 years after the Prometheus Accords, the galaxy had transformed in ways that still amazed Elena. As she stood in the observation deck of the New Horizons, humanity's first intergalactic exploration vessel, the ship existed simultaneously in 7 different dimensions, its hull gleaming with materials that drew their strength from parallel realities, where matter behaved according to entirely different principles. The Galactic Cooperation Council had replaced the old hegemony structure, with representatives from over 100 species now participating in joint research projects that pushed the boundaries of dimensional physics. The knowledge-sharing protocols Elena had insisted upon had accelerated scientific advancement across all civilizations at rates that seemed impossible even to her. Progress report from the Andromeda Gate project, Dr. Tanaka announced. Her image, transmitted across dimensional barriers from the construction site in the Triangulum Galaxy. We've achieved stable portal formation over distances exceeding 2 million light-years. The gateway will be operational within the month. Elena smiled as she watched the construction feed. The portal wasn't just an engineering marvel. It represented the philosophical transformation of galactic society. Instead of competing for resources within their local galaxy, civilizations were now cooperating to explore the infinite possibilities of the broader universe. The Vorthic engineering teams have integrated their quantum tunnel boring technology with our dimensional field generators, Dr. Patel reported from the Kepler Research Consortium. We can now create stable transportation networks that connect any two points in space-time, regardless of distance or dimensional barriers. The military applications that had initially terrified the hegemony had evolved into tools of exploration and construction. War had become obsolete when any conflict could be resolved by accessing alternate realities, where the disputed resources existed in infinite abundance. Scarcity, the traditional driver of interstellar conflict, had been eliminated through dimensional manipulation, but the most profound changes were biological. Dr. Okafor's continued research had led to voluntary enhancement programs that allowed individuals to adapt their physiology to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The enhanced beings could experience realities that baseline humans couldn't perceive, opening cognitive possibilities that approach the transcendent. The crystalline collective has achieved consciousness integration across 17-dimensional matrices. Dr. Okafor transmitted from the bioenhancement facilities on Titan. Their collective intelligence now operates on cognitive levels that we're still trying to understand. Elena had chosen to remain unenhanced, preferring to observe the transformation. From her original human perspective, someone needed to remember what they had been before they became something unimaginably greater. The door to the observation deck opened to admit Marcus Webb, now serving as humanity's representative to the Galactic Cooperation Council. His appearance had changed dramatically. Like many of the enhanced humans, he existed partially in higher dimensions, giving him an ethereal quality that seemed to shift with the light. The Council has approved the Omega Protocol, he announced, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated across multiple dimensional frequencies. We're ready to begin the next phase of exploration. Elena turned from the viewport, her expression thoughtful. The Parallel Universe Project? Are we certain we're ready for that level of complexity? The enhanced beings believe so. They've detected what appear to be entirely separate cosmic structures, universes, with completely different physical laws, different forms of matter, even different concepts of time and space. The implications were staggering. They had mastered dimensional manipulation within their own universe, but the enhanced beings were detecting the existence of entirely separate realities, governed by physics so alien that baseline humans couldn't even comprehend them. And they want to make contact. They want to explore. The enhanced collective consciousness believes that our universe is just one of infinite variations, each representing different solutions to the fundamental equations of existence. Some may contain forms of life and intelligence that we can't imagine. Elena considered the proposal. 5 years ago, she had been a simple researcher hoping to secure tenure. Now she was contemplating contact with intelligences from universes where the basic concepts of matter and energy might not exist. What about the risks? We're talking about interacting with cosmic forces that operate under completely different principles. The enhanced beings have run probability assessments across multiple dimensional matrices. They believe the potential for beneficial contact outweighs the risks, and Elena, Marcus paused, his expression serious. They want you to lead the project. Me? But I'm not enhanced. I can't even perceive the dimensional frequencies they're working with. That's exactly why they need you. Someone who remembers what we were before we became what we are now. Someone who can serve as an anchor point if we encounter intelligences that are so alien. We risk losing our essential humanity in the process of trying to understand them. Elena looked out at the stars, each one now representing possibilities that had been unimaginable just a few years before. The galaxy that had once seemed so vast and mysterious was now just the beginning of an infinite journey of discovery. When do we begin? The Transcendence launches in 6 months. It's been constructed using technologies that didn't exist even a year ago, materials that exist in multiple universes simultaneously, driven by forces that draw their power from the fundamental structures of reality itself. As Marcus left to return to his council duties, Elena remained in the observation deck, contemplating the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. She had changed the laws of physics for one galaxy. Now they were preparing to explore realities where entirely different laws might apply. The little girl, who had dreamed of understanding the universe, was about to discover that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than she had ever imagined. And somewhere in the vast cosmic structures beyond their reality, intelligences that had evolved under completely different principles of existence might be preparing for humanity's arrival. The greatest adventure in the history of consciousness was about to begin. The Transcendence existed in a state that defied description in any human language. Elena stood, or perhaps floated. The concepts had become fluid in what the enhanced beings called the navigation nexus, a space that existed simultaneously in 17 different universes. Around her, reality itself seemed to breathe with possibilities she was only beginning to comprehend. Contact established with universe designation Alpha 77 announced the collective consciousness that had once been individual scientists from a dozen different species. Their voices harmonized across dimensional frequencies, creating communication that transcended the limitations of language itself. Through the Nexus viewports, though viewing was an inadequate term for the process of perceiving alternate realities, Elena observed her first glimpse of a universe where the fundamental forces operated according to completely different principles. Instead of matter and energy, the basic building blocks appeared to be concepts themselves, thoughts and ideas that took on physical properties and interacted according to laws of logic. Rather than physics, the intelligences in Alpha 77 communicate through conceptual manipulation, the enhanced beings explained. They construct reality through conscious thought, building civilizations from pure ideation. Their version of technology is philosophy made manifest. Elena felt a profound sense of vertigo as she tried to comprehend the implications. How do we establish meaningful contact with beings who exist as living thoughts? Through you, the collective replied. Your unenhanced consciousness operates on principles they can recognize. You think in ways that parallel their reality construction methods. While we exist in too many dimensions for them to properly perceive, the communication attempt began with simple concepts, mathematical relationships that should be universal, regardless of the underlying nature of reality. To Elena's amazement, the response came not as signals or messages, but as alterations in the logical structure of local spacetime. The Alpha 77 beings were answering by temporarily rewriting the laws of physics themselves. They're asking about our nature, Elena interpreted, her scientific training allowing her to parse the reality modifications. They want to know how consciousness can exist in a universe where thoughts don't directly control physical matter. The exchange that followed stretched across months and required Elena to fundamentally reconsider her understanding of existence itself.